Ronnie-Ward from the Ditmas Park section of the Flatbush neighborhood, Brooklyn, in the city of New York, state of New York, United States. Well, this is, today's Friday, the 27th day of February of 2026. And so tomorrow's the last day of February, February 28th. So this is Meet the Press Now, NBC, for yesterday, which was Thursday. And 14 hours ago, which puts it on Thursday, the 26th, 123,567 views. Now, just imagine that. I mean, out of all the people in the United States to watch CBS, only 123,500 people out of 350 million people have seen this. So let's Meet the Press Now. And here's what it says. Here's what NBC said. Representative Suhas Subramaniam, Democrat from Virginia, says that Hillary Clinton has nothing to hide after the House Oversight Committee interviews the former Secretary of the State during the first Obama administration. Part of its Jeffrey Epstein probe, the Department of Defense clashes with AI giant Anthropic, which is another American corporation, over the use of artificial intelligence in the military. President Trump escalates pressure on Iran as the peace talks continue abroad. For more information. Now, what they're going to talk about next is that primaries, the Republican National Committee and the Democratic National Committee started the primary season, the process of sifting and sorting through individuals running for a third of the senators, or about 33 senators, are up for election this November. And all of the members of the House, all 435, are up for election this November. So primary season kicked off yesterday, Thursday, the 26th. And so thus the political season began for who will represent the American people in the House of Representatives, and 1/3 of the 100 United States senators are also up for election. And that's what I'm going to focus on now, is this primary season. Oh, and by the way, that means 2 years from now, on about February 20-something or other, is when the primary season will kick off for President Trump again, and the Democrats, for who will be the candidate for President of the United States for both Democrats and Republicans. I'm going to tell you right now, Donald Trump, there's no law that stops him from being a candidate. He has the right of free speech, free association, assembly, and grievance. So Donald Trump will be running a campaign for president in 2028. And I'll just point out, the amendment to the Constitution says 2 consecutive terms. Well, by definition, he's not had 2 consecutive terms. Consecutive means 2 terms in a row. Well, he's had a term and 4 years off in a term, so he will run and be on the ballot in November 28th and then run for his 2nd consecutive term. I already know he's going to do it, and nobody can stop it. Nobody can stop it. Can't be stopped because it's up to the Republican and the Democratic national committees to decide who their nominee is because they have the right of free speech, the right to assemble, and the right to put grievances before the government. So they can't stop it because those are their constitutional rights as guaranteed. The Supreme Court of the United States will uphold this because of your fundamental First Amendment rights for both national committees and the persons who would be the Republican nominee and the persons who would be the Democratic nominee. It's a constitutional right, okay? The Supreme Court will uphold that because those rights are more important than an amendment that says 2 consecutive terms, but there's nothing inconsistent there, as I've already pointed out. This is why it will all be grounded in the Constitution, and Donald Trump will be the nominee, and he will then serve until the 20th day of January, 2023. And exactly 100 years ago in the past, March 1933 is when Franklin Delano Roosevelt assumed office for his first term as President of the United States. We're on a 100-year cycle here, friends.
The very latest on U.S. tensions with Cuba, as Secretary of State Marco Rubio says the administration is investigating an incident that Havana is calling a, quote, foiled armed infiltration into its country involving an American...
By private citizens.
But first, a special programming announcement. Tune in this Tuesday for NBC News Now special coverage of the first major primaries of the 2026 midterm elections. We'll be live all night long as the results come in starting at 8 p.m. Eastern.
Yeah, this coming Tuesday.
The Press Now. Stay with us.
Tuesday, March 3rd, it'll be.
Get C-SPAN on the go. Watch the day's biggest political events live or on demand, anytime, anywhere.
Welcome back. We are learning new details about that deadly firefight off the coast of Cuba, in which 4 people aboard a...
Now listen to this. 4 private citizens. This isn't military action. Private citizens, former Cuba nationals, people who used to live in Cuba or descendants of people who used to live in Cuba, trying to go down and overthrow the Cuban government, legitimate government. Oh my God. See, it's so close to Florida, it's ridiculous. You don't realize how close it is. There's Florida, right up there. Yeah, it's not very far to go by a little boat to get over there. It really isn't. Here we go. Now, they're going to interview some young people from think tanks. I think the Atlantic Council. Here you go.
Florida registered speedboat were killed by the Cuban military. Now, Cuba says the speedboat
Good for Cuba.
Residents of the United States who were armed and trying to infiltrate Cuba for a, quote, terrorist purposes.
Cuba's Ministry of the Interior.
State Marco Rubio says the U.S. is carrying out its own investigation into the incident that will determine the administration's response.
Because
I'm not going to speculate on what...
Because you can't trust Florida, a state, to do an investigation, and you don't want to trust what Cuba says. So, Marco Rubio, who's of Cuban ancestry, is going to make sure that the federal government does the independent investigation to see what's going on. It's an international incident. It's significantly important. I mean, we're a law and order country. We can't be supporting private individuals getting in a boat and going and invading a foreign country.
The U.S. will do, what I'm telling you is that we're going to find out exactly what happened and who was involved, and then we'll make a determination on the basis of what we find out. And we are going to find out. We're not going to just take what somebody else tells us.
Joining me now is NBC News correspondent Ed Augustin in Cuba and Will Freeman, a fellow for Latin American Studies at the Council on Foreign Relations. Thank you both so much for being...
Oh, there, there you go. Council on Foreign Relations. Look at how young this guy is. The Council on Foreign Relations, that's a very important United States think tank. I don't like think tanks very well. They're like privateering. They foment all kinds of international scandals.
Here, Ed, let me start with you and get you to respond to what Cuba is saying. Cuba's deputy foreign minister just held a press conference. What exactly are they saying?
Well, I'm here in the same building the press conference took place.
He's in Cuba.
And the Deputy Foreign Minister laid out the facts.
Now, this think tank guy can't be there.
Says that they have recovered from that speedboat panoply of weapons, assault rifles, night vision goggles, camouflage equipment, which furthers his case, he would argue, that this was not to do with human trafficking, it wasn't to do with drug trafficking, both of which have happened in these waters in recent years. He would say that this furthers his case that this was...
killed 4, so maybe they got
secondly,
6 in custody.
A fact, and this is a fact because we've had enough history and investigation to know it. He said that Cuba has been a victim of terrorism emanating from the United States, both organized by and financed by the United States. And that really, that's his opinion. I think you've also got to say it's academic consensus.
Is this a CIA-financed Bay of Pigs kind of prelude again? Is it? It's just like a run-up to the Bay of Pigs incident that happened during the, that happened 60 years ago. Kennedy administration, 60 to 63. That's 60 years ago. Are we repeating the Bay of Pigs again because Marco Rubio's a Cuban? What about Mayorkas, the Homeland Security Secretary, who was impeached by the House, but the Senate refused to hold a trial? Here we go again. That's a fact. They violated the Constitution. Because the Constitution says upon a vote of impeachment, there will be a trial. That was Chuck Schumer, the majority leader at the time during the Biden administration, violated the Constitution. The president didn't say anything about it. Biden, he didn't. Well, the American people were cheated out of a trial of Secretary Mayorkas, and Chuck Schumer, my senator, was leading the charge against it. Well, in February 2021, Schumer led the charge then. They wanted to try to hold a trial against Trump. He left office on January 20th, 2021. Well, he's already out of office. What kind of trial were they going to have? Well, they were going to have, Schumer wanted the Senate to be a kangaroo court. What kind of punishment would they have had? He's already out of office. Oh my God. It's scandalous what the Biden administration's done to American people and what Chuck Schumer has done, my senator, as a leader, minority leader in the Senate. It's outrageous. Violating the Constitution. My senator has done this because I live in New York. And my President Biden, targeted me through his administrative bureaucracy. First-degree assault with the intent to commit depraved heart murder. It's a miracle I lived when I was in Atlanta traveling from Florida back to the United States over a New Year's Eve. Yeah, I was de facto and de jure homeless and stranded in Atlanta. Exposed to the elements outdoors because I was homeless. I nearly froze to death, 22 degrees temperature.
Now, if you look at things like Bay of Pigs, alongside again 1961, that was organized and financed by the CIA, by the US state. And
he just said the same thing I did.
A liberation, but it was actually a paramilitary invasion. In the 1970s, coming from Miami, you had Orlando Bush who was the intellectual architect, and the CIA knew about this beforehand, of blowing up a civilian airliner that killed over 70 people. He was given a presidential pardon by the first Bush president and died peacefully in Miami in his 80s. And more recently, most people wouldn't say this is terrorism, but in 2020, a man fired a weapon, a gun, a rifle, at the Cuban embassy in Washington. And 2 years ago, no charges were pressed. So it is undoubtedly true that there is a line where a lot of violence has come out.
2 years ago, no charges were pressed? Oh, that was during Biden 2 years ago. Lawlessness, again, another indictment against President Biden. Why wouldn't they press charges about the firing of a weapon at an embassy in the United States Capitol? Biden is a traitor against the United States. He failed to uphold his oath of office to protect and defend the Constitution. You technically stop being the leader of the party. I hope you understand something. Who's ever in the White House, whatever party they are, they're the chairman of the party as well. Chairman of the Republican Party, President of the United States, commander of the armed forces. Yeah, they're party chairman too. Just like some country, Xi Jinping, chairman of the party, or a former premier of the Soviet Union, chairman of the party, chairman of the presidium. Yeah, that's the proper way to look at the president of the United States. Party chairman.
Of Florida historically, and there hasn't been much accountability, and he pointed to that. The most important thing he said, though, was that the Cuban authorities are talking to the American authorities, both to the Coast Guard, which perhaps isn't too surprising because the Coast Guard, anyone who knows Cuba knows the two Coast Guards have a highly functional relationship and talk a lot, but also he said that they're talking to the State Department.
Because the United States Coast Guard patrols this 90 miles stretch of water between Florida and Cuba. Yeah, the Coast Guard does it. Officers and cadets of the United States Coast Guard, they're military. I know a little bit about it. Their academy, where they train their officers to be first lieutenants, is in New London, Connecticut. Yeah, I lived in New London, Connecticut. I know a little bit about the Coast Guard. It's also home to the nuclear-powered submarine force at Sub-Base New London, Groton. Yeah, I've been to all these places.
And in this wider...
Oh, God, watch this.
What the heck is going on?
Yeah, just check Newsbreak and find out.
Oh my gosh, there was a road.
And in this wider conversation the media are having, speculation, is it true that the two governments are negotiating or not? That's got to be an important thing.
Will, let me turn to you and get your take. I mean, this is such an extraordinary incident. And the
Foreign Relations Council, NBC gets these people. They know who they are.
Cuba's foreign minister saying Cuba hasn't had to face...
I'm going to tell you, here's a nobody. Some young guy, nobody. He gets on NBC because he's with the Council on Foreign Relations. Do you think I can get access to NBC, ABC, or CBS about what's happened to me by the Biden administration? No, it's nearly impossible for me to do so. There's no way I can even contact the three networks. No help. Something as important as first-degree assault with the intent to commit depraved heart murder against me. I have all the facts, it's true. Through a major ABC banking corporation. It's a huge crime, scandal. No way. The major networks can't even help me. They're not there to protect America or citizens. They're there to just keep themselves in business. It's a profit motive now for major networks. They don't do investigative reporting to protect and defend the Constitution of American people.
Has had to face, numerous infiltrations since 1959. Part of what Ed's just laying out. Put this into
well, there you go. Yeah, 1959 is really the beginning of the problems with Cuba. Well, the tail end of the Eisenhower-Nixon administration. Trust me, President Eisenhower and Vice President Nixon, they're right in whatever they did. Remember, Eisenhower was supreme commander of all Allied forces in Europe. So, the beginning of what is known as the Scandal Bay of Pigs started with Eisenhower and Nixon. I trust them.
Well, it comes at a moment of extreme uncertainty, I'd say, for the future of the authoritarian regime on the island. Of course, this person...
Authoritarian? Oh, God. Listen, the Foreign Relations Council fomenting violence and war. They're corrupt. The Foreign Relations Council, the Atlantic Council, all the American think tanks, they're all corrupt. They're all for war and violence. They all are for war and violence. They keep war and violence stirred up worldwide. They're not pro-American. They're not pro any country. They just switch around because they see themselves as supra state nations, especially these two.
A lot of other crises when people thought that it might finally collapse. But the current moment is really unprecedented. I mean, I just want to underscore a few figures. One, tourism down over 70% since 2018. The military and other authorities that rule the island had transformed the economy to revolve around tourism. Okay, so that leg is knocked out from under the table.
Oh, European capitals. Guess what they're doing in Europe now? Despite millions of people in tourism coming, major cities like Barcelona and other major capitals in Europe, they're hiking up taxes for tourists to try to drive them out. They're sick and tired, mostly of Americans, coming and visiting their capitals in Europe. Thanks, Europe. Yeah, there's a recent report on it. Barcelona is practically doubling its exit tax. Tokyo's doing the same thing. They call it the Sayonara tax. Yeah, get the hell out of Tokyo, Americans and foreigners. Yeah, that prime minister over there is not so good. Remember how violent they are. Japanese. Just remember what they did to Americans. They're no different. They're still dangerous. And even after World War II, the Japanese went back down to islands in the South Pacific and warred against us again, taking over countries after World War II. Nobody complained about that.
You also have 10 to 20% of Cubans who've left the island since 2021, mostly young people fleeing, both fleeing political...
Good riddance for Cuba. Get rid of the radicals then. Let them go somewhere else. They don't get to come back to Cuba, I'll guarantee you that. It's a form of exile. They're dissidents in a way. They're just radicals. Yeah, radicals from Cuba coming in the Florida, United States to foment this invasion coming back. It's so sickening to me. I'm tired of violence and war.
Repression and looking for opportunities elsewhere. So this is
opportunities to foment rebellion against Cuba.
Even able to claim credit for functional hospitals or low crime rates, those are going up as well. It's a regime in absolute crisis, and that has only deepened since the Trump administration cut off the flow of oil from Venezuela, which had been essentially keeping the lights on. So the Trump administration has Cuba in this position of, I think immense precarity and vulnerability, the regime that is. And allegedly there are these talks going on. Now, of course, the Cubans disavow those. The Trump administration hasn't provided much details, but what we believe is that the Trump administration is speaking potentially to a grand...
Hopefully to normalize relationships and have stability. I hope Trump ends up arresting and charging Cuban nationals, United States citizens living in Florida. I hope the Department of Justice charges them with terrorism and charges them for fomenting international rebellion. I hope so. I'll follow up on it.
On a throne Castro about some kind of negotiated opening, at least on the economic front, to reactivate the economy and probably bring in U.S. investment. So when I saw this episode happen, the first question for me was, if those talks are indeed going on, what does this mean for them? Does it derail them? Does it empower hardliners on the Cuban side, some of whom may not want to see this kind of negotiation go forward?
See the Foreign Relations Council? They're undermining the president's agenda of stabilization. The Foreign Relations Council is. Because they like war and fighting and arms and money. They're disgusting. All think tanks should be eliminated in the United States. Because I'm going to tell you, foreigners involved with these think tanks in Washington, they have no right. They're foreigners. You can't use rights that belong to American citizens in our country just because you come over here. They try to operate in this country. Freedom of speech, think tanks. No, foreigners don't have rights under the Constitution for free speech. You don't. We can pass laws that regulate your speech in this country. Because the prohibition in the Constitution, Congress shall pass no law, that's for citizens, not foreign people. You don't enjoy the rights of U.S. citizens here. I'm blowing the lid on it right now. I'm sick to death of foreigners being in the United States and claiming free speech, free press. No, you don't have it. Neither do your corporations. Foreign corporations, you're not protected in America or in your home country by our constitutional rights to press. No, you're not. I'm sick of you taking advantage of us. You're foreigners. You have no constitutional rights in America. Neither do your corporations, not-for-profits, or think tanks. I hope Trump roots all of you out and passes special laws against, or takes executive action to all foreign profit-making, profiteering corporations that are owned by foreign governments. Even Toyota. Yeah, I hope he just throws out your Toyota cars. Who cares? BMW, Volkswagen, all these foreign cars. I'm sorry. You have no rights to even sell your products in our country. You're foreigners. You're all foreigners. Get rid of all of you. Throw all the foreigners out of America, especially the corporations. If you all were eliminated from our country permanently, your foreign corporations and profiteering, then Americans would form corporations, and we would be inventive, and we would have new corporations, and we would have means of profit. We've got the biggest economy in the world. Time to root all of you out. Get rid of all of you once and for all so we can make the money and we can be inventive and we can invent new cars and new manufacturing. We don't need your foreign cars. We don't need any from Europe or anywhere. We don't want any foreign cars. None. I'm not radical. I'm standing up for American enterprise. Time to get rid of all of you. Yeah, I hope Trump does it. He can do it by a stroke of his pen.
Does it empower certain hardliners on the U.S. side who maybe also feel threatened by it? I think that's what we'll see soon. But my read on Secretary of State Rubio's comments is that he's trying to keep a calm tone for now. First, figure out what happened before jumping to conclusions.
Well, will you take me to my next question, which is I do want to play some of what President Trump has had to say about Cuba, about those talks. Get both of your reactions on the other side. Take a listen.
Cuba is right now a failed nation. They don't even have jet fuel to get for airplanes to take off. They're clogging up their runway. We're talking to Cuba right now, and Marco Rubio talking to Cuba right now, and they should absolutely make a deal because it's really a humanitarian threat. And they should absolutely make a deal because it's really a humanitarian threat.
Well, let me start.
Oh, Cuba, Trump says, is a humanitarian threat and crisis. Well, he's going to take Greenland from Denmark. That's a military threat. The Danes are a military threat to the United States, not China and Russia. No, Europe's a military threat to us. Rout them out of Greenland. Just take it from them. They can't stop us. And Venezuela? Well, he didn't overthrow the regime. It wasn't regime change. No, that Machado liberal radical woman that had the darling of Oslo Peace Prize once again. The Norwegian government, oh, the Peace Prize. Radical threat from Europe again. He didn't do regime change in Venezuela, and he's not doing regime change in Cuba, and he's not going to do regime change in Iran either. No, we're going to do regime change in Europe. That's the number one priority. Eliminate the European Parliament, because those people that go to there, they don't represent a country. You can't have a parliament for a continent. The European Parliament, that's a parliament for a continent. Who would allow and believe in a parliament for a continent? How ridiculous. See how ridiculous they are in Europe? Europe's a threat to the world. Again, they've always been the threat to the world, not the United States. No, Europeans, they're the threat to the world. They've organized the European Parliament. Well, why not organize, I don't know, Parliament of South America, and let all the population of South America elect representatives to go to the South American Parliament, and let them have an army and stand up. They'd freak out around the world. Shows you the hypocrisy of Europe and the special privilege they have to war against the world. Yeah, that includes Boot, the Secretary General of NATO. Yeah, that whole thing is just our way of keeping our boot military on the ground over there to keep those radical Europeans under our control. That's all NATO's for, to control Europe. It's been a hegemonic threat to the United States for a long time. But we made our peace with His Britannic Majesty in Christmas Eve, 1814, before Waterloo, when we entered into the Treaty of Ghent, which was negotiated on their sovereign territory, what is now called the Netherlands. That's where it was negotiated, because the Netherlands didn't exist as a country in 1814. Because we negotiated our Treaty of Peace there with the Crown. Well, the Netherlands shouldn't exist today either. It's not a legitimate country. It only became something after World War II. And I'll remind you, Yugoslavia didn't exist until right after World War II. And then the Europeans, with our President Clinton and the future Secretary of State, bombed Yugoslavia and broke that country up. Yes, the Europeans did that in the 90s with the help of our president. More warmongering. I'm glad they're questioning Clinton and Hill and Hillary. She was a former Secretary of State. They both have been violating their oaths of office. Bill's oath of office from when he became president in 92, and Hillary's oath when she was Secretary of State for Obama. Yeah, Biden was Obama's vice president. It's Clinton, Bill, and Hillary. Yeah, Joe Biden and his wife, Dr. Jill, and President Obama and his wife, Michelle, and everybody who worked in their administrations, all their ambassadors especially. There's a big group of people to have to round up and question under those administrations who all violated their oath to protect and defend the Constitution and protect and defend the American people. Remember, Bill Clinton is the one who shipped out all of our jobs with NAFTA, decimated our factories to kill and strangulate the American people. He didn't have a right to do that. He wasn't protecting the American people. I've never met more selfish group of American leaders in my life than the collective administrations of of Bill Clinton, Barack Obama, and Joe Biden. They are awful. They sold us out to subjugate us, to lift up their own private world hegemonic agendas backed by Europe. It's disgusting. Somehow our allies, the people of China and the people of Russia, they're our allies to Americans. We've never been at war with the People's Republic of China or the Russian Federation or the USSR. That's a fact. See, I'm tired of it because Obama came after me personally too. Oh, he did. I'm not going to get into it right now, but he did. He did something really terrible to me. He did. My passport during the Obama administration has stamped in it for a foreign country. Enter a foreign country. 2 weeks later, exit a foreign country. Well, I discovered that on October 7th, 2024, when I was at the U.S. Capitol. I have no memory of leaving the country and returning. That happened during Obama's administration. He had to know, or is responsible for knowing, how the heck did my person, leave this country and return to this country? And I have no memory of it. That's outrageous, but it's a fact. My passport's got stamps on it from some foreign country. I really passed through a foreign country and could return to come back. I have no idea what happened to me for 2 weeks. No memory. What did they do to me? What did they do to me? Yeah, what did they do to me? What did they do to me? They didn't take me for a vacation. What did they do to me? Where was I taken to? What experiments did they do? What did they do to me? That's very serious, and that's true what I'm saying. I'm not lying about it. It's a fact. My passport book is stamped. That was during Obama. Well, it should scare the bewilligers out of you. It doesn't scare me because it's a fact of what's happened and I'm alive. But I'm a little bit curious. Just what did they do with me? And how is it I have no memory of it either? Don't forget Ultra and all those CIA experiment things either. I have no idea what they did to me or where I was at when they did it. I don't even know if I don't still have something in my body or something. God, imagine that. Yeah, that's the truth. February 27th, 2026. Yeah, that's when it is. Yeah, it is. That's what happened to me during Obama. Well, it's 9:32 a.m. right now.
With you, what do you make of what you heard from the president?
Fairly straightforward description of the facts. It is a humanitarian crisis. There'd be no other reason that 1 to 2 million of 10 million people would have left in the last few years if that wasn't true. And I certainly do hope that there's a deal struck. I think the protests of 2021, unprecedented, tens, if not hundreds of thousands of Cubans out in the street. I mean, it really...
Oh my God. In the world fog of COVID, the world fog of Spanish flu, 100 years before that, let's just riot the world while everybody's dying because of COVID. Yeah, that COVID virus thing, I'm going to tell you something. That's right out of the United States and Biden and Europe. Yep, Europe did it again. Yeah, the 100-year curse of the Spanish flu. European and our Democrat presidents did it. Remember, the Clintons were involved with the YES, Y-E-S, the European group that started in the mid-2000s to rout out Russia from Ukraine is when it really started. Mr. Pinchuk, the Ukrainian billionaire. He's really Russian, but billionaire. Yeah, Bill and Hillary were in Yalta at a big fancy ball gala 22 years ago. Yeah, Europe's to blame for that, along with Democratic presidents. Yeah, that's all a fact. You can look it up. They mocked Roosevelt and Stalin and Churchill by having that in Yalta 22 years ago. The Clintons did that. So did Biden. So did Dr. Jill. So did Obama, and so did Michelle. Yeah, it don't matter. The wives of the dictators go down with the dictator. Hillary took an oath, okay? Dr. Jill undermined the American people as the first lady, and so did Michelle. Because Michelle hasn't come forward to say anything. Now she loves being a millionaire now. It's just wealth. I hope they're all arrested. I hope they are. Gather up the children, too. Yeah, the children, too. Yeah, because they got to be in on it. They got to know about it. They're profiting from it, too. Yeah, their children, too, and their grandchildren. Arrest all of them. That's right. Hunter Biden, his children, all of them. Yeah, put them all in jail. The kids, too, and their grandkids. None of their generations can profit from what they've done. Stop it. Put them in jail. They don't deserve to have any more grandchildren to pass down their fomenting radicalism. No, just put them all in jail. Lock them up. The kids, too. No more reproducing their generations. Put an end to it. Yeah, well, that's how it has to be. Not going to allow them to pass on their political dynasty. That's all grandkids mean to them, is an opportunity to use their millions and billions to put their own kind back in the presidency and representatives and senators. Now it's time to end this intergenerational tyranny of Democrats. The roots of the Clinton. Chelsea Clinton, too, and her husband, her kids. Yeah. Sequester all of them. Stop them from reproducing. No more, no more. No, because they're just going to raise up kids and run for public office. Chelsea Clinton for president in 10 years from now or something. Yeah, I'm sick of it. Privilege and power of these radical Democrats ruining our country and our people. The tyranny of Europe. Can't stand it anymore. I'm done with it. I have all the facts. See, this is just a program from yesterday, and see where I am right now. Yeah, I'm hot on this.
We showed you that there is mass discontent coupled with this mass exodus of people. There is a pressure for political change of some kind. Obviously, needs to include a number of stakeholders on the island. I think it's a pretty fair description.
The stakeholders in civil society. That's European talk. That's Hillary Clinton talk. You know how many lectures she's given around the world? Civil society and stakeholders. I never heard of civil society and stakeholders. Now that's radicalism out of Europe and the Democrats here and the think tanks and the European Parliament. I'm a student of the law and history. There's no record of civil society and stakeholder language. You can look it up and see where it started. That's UN bullshit, too. Stakeholders in civil society. Civil society, a global civil society, worldwide stakeholders. That is the ultimate super government of the world, backed financially by the World Economic Forum. They're the real threats to world peace. Yeah, I've got it right.
Of where Cuba is now. Obviously, a very uncertain path ahead, but I think it's pretty much on the money.
Ed, let me give you the final word here. What
The
more are you
reporter
learning
who's on the
about
ground
people
in
on
Havana.
that boat, and what are you watching for next in this investigation?
Well, it's been fascinating to report on the people on the boat. I woke up at 5:30.
The people of the boat.
Radio Marti, which is a US government-financed propaganda outlet, and one of the people on that boat did an interview last year, backing President Trump, saying that the regime is about to fall, saying that Cuban
No.
everything possible to make the regime.
No, he just connected something he shouldn't have. He said President Trump and them. That's wrong. There's no evidence that President Trump has anything to do with these people of the boat. See his bias? He's planting a little thread here. And now it'll be Trump running the people of the boat operation. No, he just said there's a humanitarian problem. Rubio said, no, we got to figure out what was going on. Why is he saying that? Because he's on the ground. He's a radical. That guy right there is a radical. He's trying to overthrow the government. He is. Yeah, and that other young guy is. What the hell is it their business? They're just for the media industrial complex fomenting war and violence.
Clearly a very political person. Two of the people that were on that boat are on a list published by the Ministry of Interior's who claim they've been involved in sabotage so far. So far...
They should be on the official no-fly list from President George W. Bush. These people should be too. I'll guarantee you he's an American citizen. So is the other one. Need to shut them up. I'm sick of it. Of all these young people, I'm old enough to be their father. And they don't know shit. I'm tired of this. I want to live a good life for my next 20, 30, 40 years. I'm only 62. I'm tired of these young whippersnapper people who know nothing about anything because they're not educated properly. We have a problem in this country that lawyers are graduating law school and aren't even taught how to read and use the Constitution. Because I went to law school from 87 to 90. It's just a disaster here in this country, what they have done to educating our populace.
AP came out with a story yesterday in which they interviewed the brother of one of the people on the boat who died, saying that he got caught up in a diabolical quest, an obsessive quest to overthrow the government. Now, these are very anti-government people, but it's clear...
Oh! Like the diabolical position of leaders in Europe. They can't help themselves, but they're prime ministers now over there. Yeah, the sons and grandsons of people in Europe who've been warring forever, intergenerational teaching of warring and violence. That's all they know in Europe. Remember, Europe's the source of World War I, World War II, and the ongoing conflict. We have all been at world war ever since the European powers fought and started World War I. Yeah, we've been in the darkness because of Europeans, including the Brits, for 120 years. World War I started in Europe in what, 1914? It's been 102 years. A century. It's been 80 years since we were supposed to have victory in Europe on the 7th day of May, 1945. And the Americans were cheated out of that, too, by Europeans. Just 80 years ago. 81. Yeah, I'm tired of it. I was taken out of the country during the Obama administration and then targeted during the Biden administration. Remember, he's O'Biden. He's Irish. Radical Irish person. Yeah, Dublin person. Radical Irish. O'Biden is his name. O'Biden. Yeah, well, I'm O as well. My ancestry goes back to way back in England. So And I'm Hungarian for third generation direct lineal descendant. I'm being denied my right of return to even visit my homeland in Hungary because the European Parliament says that the Hungarian people are illiberal. When they say Orban is illiberal, they mean all the people of Hungary. I'm sorry, I'm Hungarian. I don't like it.
They are political people, and they have been accused by the Cuban government for many years, at least two of them, for being involved in trying to overthrow the government. And so that would seem that there's
intergenerational overthrow of their government.
That this was indeed, that these were political people.
Intergenerational.
Ed Augustin, Will Freeman, thank you.
Intergenerational
so much
violence.
Still developing.
Right in
We really
Cuba.
appreciate it. Coming up next, inside today's high-stakes talks between top U.S. and Iranian.
Well, Ronnie-Ward from the Ditmas Park section of the Flatbush neighborhood, Brooklyn, and the city of New York, the County of Kings, state of New York, United States. I'm no global citizen. I don't believe in that multilateralism and all that bullshit either. Anybody who stands for that is for world hegemony of private interests and supra-UN governance of the world.